A presidential address and police presence on campuses across the U.S. have not stopped students from protesting about the Israel-Hamas war. So we wanted to focus our weekly national security recap on what's going on in the Middle East and its consequences here at home. CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograd joins us for more analysis once again. So, Sam, let's go ahead and start with the war itself. What are the latest developments on the ground in Israel and Gaza?
Well, Sunday marks 7 months since Hamas's terrorist attack against Israel. Remaining Israeli hostages that are still alive, estimates are there are about 130, have been in captivity for over 200 days. Innocent Gazan civilians have been suffering for months, and those dire conditions are exactly why the United States continues strong efforts to push for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Now, that deal, as we understand it, would include a first phase for a pause in fighting for about 6 weeks, the release of about 33 hostages in exchange for various Palestinian prisoners, as well as an influx of additional aid. Now, while Secretary of State Blinken was in the region this week, he did say that Israel had made a generous offer and that the ball is in Hamas's court, that Hamas had yet to respond. Hamas has been pushing for a more permanent end to the war in Gaza and the removal of all Israeli troops. It looked like negotiations were at an impasse, but we learned on Friday that CIA Director Bill Burns, who has been leading the U.S. negotiations with Israel and Hamas, had arrived back in Egypt, which could mean perhaps that there is some sort of opening, some sort of momentum towards a negotiated solution that the people of Gaza and the remaining Israeli hostages really desperately need.
Well, I'm wondering if there's been any improvement on the humanitarian side. We know that there have been several efforts at that, but that all reports are that the situation remains dire.
It does. There have been some improvements, but much more is needed. While in Israel this week, Secretary of State Blinken indicated that another land crossing, the Erez crossing, has reopened to allow in humanitarian aid. World Central Kitchen resumed its aid delivery operations in Gaza. It had stopped those operations after the tragic attack on one of its aid convoys by the Israeli Defense Forces. On the flip side, we understand that reportedly Israeli settlers attacked an aid convoy on its way from Jordan into Gaza. On the maritime side, the Pentagon briefed this week that the maritime aid pier that President Biden mentioned in his State of the Union address in January was almost finished. It has a price tag of about $320 million, according to the Pentagon, and officials indicated it would be ready sometime in early May. So many are hoping that that means next week. Now, also on the humanitarian side, Prime Minister Netanyahu indicated that Israel remains focused on launching a ground operation into Rafah. The United States has said it does not support such an operation absent a credible humanitarian plan that would help keep over 1 million Palestinians who are sheltering in Rafah safe. Now, we are looking to see, of course, as I mentioned earlier, whether Hamas does agree to a ceasefire deal, because that would allow in about 500 aid trucks a day. And so it's really up to Hamas about whether and when they allow in much more aid that is so desperately needed.
Well, Sam, let's now go back to the U.S. from a security perspective. How do you evaluate what's going on college campuses? And we've heard of a co-opting of peaceful protests by extreme elements. How does this complicate security decisions?
Well, activities related to the war in the Middle East really exploded across the country this week. Over 40 college and university campuses had activities, and the ongoing risk to public safety, as well as the scale and scope of these activities, likely led President Biden to deliver very short remarks on Thursday about the situation unfolding in our country. In his remarks, he drew a very sharp line between First Amendment protected activity and unlawful behavior. And that really raises a very important nuance here. What we're seeing across the country is a range of different activities. We have First Amendment protected activities. We have civil unrest, which is by definition nonviolent, and we have seen actually violent criminal offenses. So nuance is important as we talk about what's transpiring across the country. We understand that over 2,000 arrests were made. Campus security officials at various campuses across the country did call in state and local law enforcement support, NYPD, LAPD, Metropolitan Police here in DC, to supplement and augment their efforts to restore public safety. We know from those arrests that professional agitators, individuals who show up to protest no matter the cause, were present at these various activities. And we also learned on Friday in an NYPD public briefing that one NYPD officer did accidentally discharge a weapon while on Columbia clearing a building there. As we look forward, all are watching to see whether these activities do abate and whether the public safety risks are mitigated. While at the same time, President Biden is delivering an address on Tuesday to mark the Holocaust Days of Remembrance. I'll be attending, and many are waiting to see whether he strongly condemns the activities unfolding and whether he is able to restore public safety in any way as students are preparing for graduation and the war in the Middle East continues unabated, at least for now.
All right, Sam Vinograd in Washington. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks.